Some people run ultras for medals. Some run them for adventure. And then there are those people who run because they've already lived a few different lives. Today's guest is someone who's walked through fire, literally and figuratively. Don Tyler Knotts is a wildland firefighter, Army veteran, chef, father, ultra runner, and sober life coach who believes that the trail is a place where you can meet God. For Don, running isn't just about miles. It's about redemption. It's about rebuilding yourself. It's about showing your kids it's never too late to be who you were meant to be. He's finished races like the Swammie Shuffle 200, but the real story isn't in the miles. It's how someone who says he's lived multiple lives found clarity, faith, and purpose somewhere deep in the trail. This is the story of endurance, sobriety, faith, and becoming better every single day. Cue that intro music.
Who says you need to fly to reach the top? Keep beating your block till your feet are hot. Get your head out the sand, join the flock. It's okay to run scared, we enjoy the lie.
Welcome back to the Ostrich Running Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Miraz, and with me, yet again, Jarrett,
I'm here.
the Juice
I'm doing it.
Horton. He's logging in these hours, coming on the show with me. He tries to skip out on it, but I keep bringing him back.
I can't get away.
Much like, what's the show? Sopranos.
Oh, wow.
Right? Every time they leave, they keep pulling me back in.
It's not The Sopranos, is
Yes,
it?
it is. That's the Sopranos.
No.
You're terrible. I'm not even going to trust your judgment on anything film or media culture because you don't watch anything. So who cares?
Isn't that The Godfather? No.
No, dude. I don't know.
That was
Maybe
not The Sopranos.
That was Sopranos, wasn't it? Well,
We'll ask our guest.
I don't know.
He
I feel
knows.
like, well, you're right. Okay, so technically it is Godfather, but
It's Al Pacino.
Yeah, but Sopranos, like he's always saying it. He's always saying it, and this is not what the show is about.
I'm sure every Italian movie.
Just we'll quote the Godfather.
Right.
Okay, we're both right.
Mm-hmm.
This is not what the show is about. We're here to banter. We're here to bring in and introduce our listeners to an incredible
I had to show up
person.
for this one.
Oh yeah, of course. And you know, this is the great thing. Today we have a special guest for you. His name is Don Knotts. He's an ultra runner, father, Army veteran, wildland firefighter.
Speaking about the mafia, Don.
Don,
Yeah.
the Don Juan.
Yeah.
The one,
Good segue.
He might be the Godfather after you hear his story.
Okay.
Okay. He might be the Godfather, but everybody listening in, I'd like to welcome to the show, Don. Don, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. We're so excited to talk with you today. Can you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Don Knotts. I live right outside of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Like they said, I'm a father, ultra runner. I'm a chef. I've lived multiple lives, so I have a lot to offer for sure.
Heck yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I think we're going to get into as many lives. This is what this guy
I need
says
some
about
recipes.
me. Yeah.
I didn't know he was a
The other
chef.
thing I was excited about is, man, being a chef and an ultra runner, it's got to kind of ruin some things for you too, but it's also got to be a good benefit as well. But we'll get into that too. I love to eat.
Oh, yeah, he does.
I eat all day long, and I want to ask you a lot about cooking as well.
Please
but,
give this man a healthy recipe because all he eats is crap.
but the crap is the stuff that tastes the best, right? Give me the cheese. Give me the oil. Give me something fried. I want batter. I want all of that stuff. That's what fuels me. My body's used to it.
Oh, God.
Don, what's your favorite thing to cook? What's your favorite meal to cook?
I always get that question. So I always tell people it's a sandwich because it's like the best ROI. But when it gets down to it, I really enjoy barbecue. I enjoy like Korean barbecue also. I've spent
nice.
time with just learning things that I wasn't growing up with because you get tired of eating the same old thing. So I've had portions of my life where I'd focus on one thing and then get tired of it, focus on another thing, and then just always try and learn,
Yeah, no, that's cool. I think, where I grew up too, it's only Mexican food, and there's not a whole lot of like different
American
cultures
food.
out there. Yeah, American food. When I moved to California, it was like this melting pot of so many different cultures, right? Having Middle Eastern food, having Greek food, having Korean, a different type of Mexican food. It was just nice to be able to explore all that. And so I'll eat whatever's in front of me. I'm beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah.
I'm just like a trash
It wasn't
can
good
of
that
food.
you moved here.
It was not good. Probably good for the economy of people who own restaurants out here, though, because, I will eat their way into their profits and put some kids through school and whatever it
Flash
may
a
be.
picture of him before he started running.
Yeah. Don, I want to get to know a little bit about who you were, in the first part of your life, right?
Young Don
Juan. You're going to be known as Don Juan to us now, the Godfather. All right. What were you like, man? What was your childhood like? How did you grow up?
I grew up in South Carolina, and my father's side of the family is from down there. So in my young teens, I moved up here. My father was actually in prison most of my life. And then I actually pretty much got out of the army and went straight to prison. So I really wasn't the best of a person growing up. I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of substance abuse. Just was around, drugs and alcohol my whole life, and then it had taken me till, 5-6 years ago to where I actually like got tired of that lifestyle. And then I transitioned into running. That gave me a healthy addiction. It gave me more of a purpose and like reasoning to like keep going on. And I'm just so thankful that I found this community. And I've failed more than I've succeeded my whole life, and I try to tell people that all the time. It's like, you can get knocked down, just don't let them knock you out. As long as you wake up in the morning, you got opportunity. You just got to take the opportunity and try to do better every day. But yeah, I grew up kind of, lower middle class, single mother. She still waits tables. She works really hard. She taught me how to work hard, at a young age. So I've always had that hard work ethic. But the drugs and the alcohol always.
Were you an athlete growing up?
Yeah, I played baseball. I wrestled. And in Pennsylvania, especially where I'm at, wrestling is like football in Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, if you win the state in Pennsylvania, you're gonna be a D1 wrestler. Like, you're gonna, like, it's no doubt about it. And I wrestled up until the time I had, I'd end up dropping out of high school to join the Army. Back then, they had this jumpstart program. You had to get emancipated from your parents. You had to go get your GED, your driver's license, and they would take you at like 16 years old. So I airborne school, which is not, I'm glad they don't do it anymore, because it turned me into something I didn't need to be turned into, with all the other issues I have.
Yeah, man.
But I'm very thankful.
I joined at 17. I'd gotten the boot from my high school. All of us troublemakers really find our way into the military at some point. We were in there, and I always share stories with Jarrett about what life was like, and I'm like, it is a collection of individuals who probably shouldn't be together because we're all like in there from different backgrounds, right? A lot of us have grown up, the streets, or in, like you mentioned, like a rougher upbringing, right? And we take these lessons that we learn, and now we're all living together, and it's just like, you're always watching your bag. You're like, somebody's going to steal from me. Somebody's going to try and take this. I'm going to fight here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And it is a tough place to be. And especially, I look back at how old I was when I joined, and I look at 17-year-old kids out here, and it is kind of crazy how young we were when we joined in the military. I am super glad that they're not doing that program anymore either. Yeah. Right? I can't even imagine
they don't let you do it anymore?
Yeah, I can't even imagine that. Like, you could still join at 17, but you have to, like he mentioned, emancipated from your parents have to sign a piece of paperwork. My mom had to sign a piece of paper to allow me to join. You mentioned something about your mom, single mom. I do want to, say a big shout out to single moms out there. My mom, after my parents split, she was a single mom, and, the things that they have to, put up with, especially if we are their sons who cause them stress all the time, for getting in trouble, cops come into the house, something like that. Right. That's just another added stress. My wife recently just left, left me at home with the kids. And I thought about it. I'm like, wow, this is the single mom life. This is insane. I don't know how they do it. So just a quick shout out to all the single moms out there who are, running, training, taking their kids to sports, taking them to school, making sure they're dressed, making sure that they have everything. You guys are incredible and, just unmatched out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, unmatched. It's just huge. So huge shout out. Yeah. There's a few things that I want to go down in that whole conversation right there. How long did you do in prison?
That's what
I would say maybe like 4 years. I was in and out. I was always in and out.
Yeah.
The one time, like the last time I went to prison, I actually went on the run 3 months after getting out, and I went back home to South Carolina and got in an altercation at a club, ended up getting locked up there, then having to get, the marshals will come and get you and bring you back to Pennsylvania. It took 25 days for me to get from South Carolina to Pennsylvania, because they just go wherever they have to go. So you're cuffed and shackled to killers, rapists, whatever it may be. You're in the thick of it. And I could go on just that, write a book about just that van that I was in, and it's crazy that looking back, the situations I put myself in, and that kind of was the last of it. I'd already had my son. My son was actually born when I was in jail. I was able to get out for the birth and everything, but
that's awesome.
It did take some time, and it wasn't like everyone says, oh, my child changed me. Having my son, which he's about to be 15 now, so he's in high school and everything, but it took a couple years of him being around and for me to understand that I needed to be there and I needed to change. And it just took so much time. And my biggest thing was I feel like I wanted to be like my father, which was not a good thing to do because he wasn't a good person.
That makes sense.
I love him to death. He's passed a couple years ago, but I always was I don't know. It was just this I grew up. My mom would put me on a train, or we'd drive down wherever he was at in prison, and we'd go see him. And
Look, I've tried every electrolyte product out there. The super sugary ones, the ones with the gimmick salt, the tablets that take forever to dissolve. On a lot of these, they mess my stomach up. But Salt, it's different. Simple. Just pure electrolytes. Sodium, potassium, and magnesium malate. In the ratio your body actually needs. When you're sweating through mile 30, 50, or 80. I created this because I needed it. When I was out at Kodiak 100 running through the night, cramping was not an option. When you're managing 100 miles, you can't afford to bonk because your electrolytes are off. So I made something that works. No artificial flavors, no BS, just quality ingredients. And here's the thing, whether you're running ultras or you're just trying to get through a hot 10K without cramping, your body needs electrolytes. That's not negotiable. Now head to ostrichRunning.com and grab some electrolytes today. Use code SALTY6 to try your own 6-pack for $6.
You know, I remember back in the day, he was in like state, federal prison. And back in the day, you could go out on the yard and bring like a cooler with food and grill and all that. And there'd be other inmates out there like selling the like ships in a bottle or whatever they're making, like, you know, and then it's like something would happen and then it's like the families would have to get rushed back in. It was just like the story.
Yeah, we have to put it into this.
Also, also, this isn't a park, guys. This is an active prison, so we're actually shutting down so we don't pepper spray these kids.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, just I grew up in kind of like a criminal mindset at a young age because that's what I was sort of looking up to, and
that's wild.
It you know, and then in the end, I end up going to prison. And the funny thing about that is, like, my father was able to come and visit me, prison that he was in, and now I'm in it, on the run from Pennsylvania. So it just became full circle, and I just, you know, had this epiphany, like, I gotta get off, I gotta quit, you know, doing drugs, drinking. My biggest thing was smoking weed, which, you know, you can't pass a piss test smoking weed because it's funny how that is. It's like
stays in your system for so long.
It stays in the longest. So it's like I end up going from smoking weed to doing pills to cocaine to smoking crack to like everything because I'm like, well, shit, I can't smoke weed anymore. So I'm going to get high however I can. And it creates an animal. It's crazy. Like,
like a few days. Done. You and I are the exact same. I'd failed a bunch of weed urinalysis, and I'm like, well, I'll just stick to cocaine and meth. You know, it's out of my system in 3 days, 2 days. Yeah. And we'll pass a test like that. This is way better.
Horrible.
Yeah, but it's so hard for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to jump back to you said about your son changing you. I think I have the same approach, right? I was still acting a fool even when my son was born, right? It didn't necessarily change me completely, and I sometimes I have a lot of shame in saying it, but I also say it openly because you know, sometimes just the birth of your child isn't enough. And addiction is real. Addiction is tough. The lifestyle's tough.
And a lot of people are going through that too. Just because you have a son doesn't mean everything will just end.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where like a lot in the sobriety, right, that we learn that you can't do it for anybody else but yourself. It's so important that you be selfish in this aspect, that your sobriety is your sobriety. You do it for somebody else, then it's, you know, a fickle thing. You may not last, right? It has to be truly for yourself. My dad also set an example of alcoholism. You know, he's a good man, taught me a lot of things, but whatever our fathers were capable of, as sons, we wanted to beat them in that aspect, right? So if he was an alcoholic, I wanted to drink more. If he was a drug addict, I wanted to do more drugs. If he went to prison, I didn't care. I'd go wherever I needed to go.
You actually wanted to beat him? You were actually trying to.
I mean,
I could do it more.
Well, like, he went to death, right? And that was the moment that I realized, like, okay,
he went too far.
Even then, like, that was probably what I was. You saw how I lived my life, right? And I just knew that if he could do it, well, I could probably do it as well, right? But at some point, we have to end that cycle for our kids, and that is, where it comes into play, right? I didn't want my kid to be, where I was, like, young and being like, my dad passed away from drugs and alcohol. That's just the standard, right? I didn't want him to have those traumas of not having a father around, thinking like, oh man, I wonder what it would have been like to ask him for advice as raising a kid, but we all had our own problems. But yeah, I think, what was that like when you went in that full circle moment and your dad's visiting you in the prison that, he was at and that you would visit? I mean, did you guys have an epiphany at any moment? Did he feel, what was that conversation like?
He just, like, supported me no matter what. And I knew I could talk to him about anything because he had been through it, like armed robberies, like just like the wildest of wild stuff. I didn't necessarily go to jail for the things that he did. Mine was more like, manufacturing and selling drugs. But I also was
probably missing a lot of your check-ins, especially if you're smoking weed. You're like, oh, well, you failed to appear. Here you go.
Yeah, parole. Like, I was not good for parole because, like, I didn't want them to tell me what to do, and I just felt like I was my own man. Yeah, at the end, I did walk it off. I did do the right thing for the most part. Not really, like, I was still selling drugs. I was still partying. Yeah, the using had transitioned into other ways, but really, like 5 years ago is really when I, like, stopped everything. Smoking weed came a little farther after that, but it was just weed and I wasn't on parole. And I always was like, oh, it's medicine, I got a medical card. But come to find out, I feel like it created some type of, like, bipolarness, or it created, like, a really short fuse for me, to where if weed now is not weed from 10-15 years ago. So when it comes down to it, it's like it's a lot stronger. It creates some type of, like, different thought process or no thought process. So yeah, I needed to, like, stop everything because I'm an addict when it comes down to it. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. Like, I drink from the fire hose. Like, same with running. Like, it's bad, and the mental aspect.
Wait, Don, so what made you quit everything 5 years ago? Like, what was the final trigger?
So it was Memorial Day. I was grilling. I had
smiles.
Yeah, because this is a funny story. So I was grilling. My mom was over. We're drinking. I got really, really drunk to the point where I fell into the grill. I knocked the grill over.
Oh my God.
Coals everywhere, chicken on the ground. And I'm like a baby deer, like, can't get my feet underneath me. And I got up, and my mom is standing there with, like, a drink in her hand, and she's like, I think it's time for you to stop, and and that's what it was. I had to, like, hit rock bottom, literally, to do that. actually got into a Vivitrol program. So Vivitrol, if you're not familiar with it,
cool. Yep.
It's like it comes in a pill form or an injection, but once you get sober, you get on that, and then it'll like make you sick if you try to drink. I was already...
I've never even heard of that.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's kind of like Suboxone for like opiates, kind of, but it's...
Yeah, for opioid. Yeah, exactly.
But it gave me a safety net. I never tried to drink on it, even though I had people in my ear like, oh yeah, you can still like drink and get sick and then start drinking again. And I was like, well, why would you even tell me that? But anyway, I did that for like 6 months or so. Found out my girlfriend at the time had gotten pregnant with my now daughter, who's 4. And that was like it, like my son and my daughter both played very pivotal, parts of my sobriety in different ways. And my daughter really like solidified it. My son, he wrote me a note and like left it on my bed and was like, Dad, I think you have like some secrets that you're keeping bottled up. And, he was like 9, 10, about 10 years old. And when I read that letter, I was like, man, I really got to stop, because I was to the point I was drinking a 5th a day of liquor, at least. I never put it into a cup and mixed it. I never poured it into a glass. I drank it straight from the bottle. I would keep the bottle in the laundry room to where it's out of sight, out of mind. And he knew exactly what was going on. Like, I'm all he has too. So it's like, that really like touched me and like affected me. And I always thought that I was just high functioning. I worked at a really prestigious fine dining restaurant. We were succeeding. We were winning like USA Today awards, like national awards. And I'm drunk the whole time, like from sun up to sundown. And at that point in time, I had a chef also. He had looked at me one day and he's like, man, you're good, but imagine how good you could be if you weren't messed up all the time. And just these little like nuggets of moments, it all piled up and took me down, at, a good time. I would have loved it to have been earlier, but that's just how God wanted it to happen, and I'm very thankful for everyone. Yeah.
So
did you quit before you had your daughter?
Yeah, right. When we found out we were pregnant with my second child is when I went and checked into a rehab.
Same thing.
Yeah, I was getting off methamphetamine at that point. That was the cheapest, longest form for me, and I could not stop for the life of me, man. And I was high functioning as well in the film industry, running some studios. And that's actually what I wanted to bring it back to, is like our industries sometimes are very difficult, right? A construction worker, I've seen in the rehabs, right? People who work construction, heroin's a big thing. Meth is a big thing. In the
you're
film
almost
industry,
scared of who you would be without it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And almost the industry that you're at embraces it, right? The film industry, cocaine is fine, Yeah, the industry that you're in definitely caters to aiding you in some problems that you have. The film industry, cocaine, everything, it's not really frowned upon, somebody's doing, you're like, oh, okay, well, I've been to parties where, and I'm not trying to glorify this, but
if you weren't doing it, I remember when I worked at Interscope, like sometimes if you weren't doing it, they looked at you as like,
why aren't you doing this? And you're not part of the crowd, right?
Right.
What was being in the culinary industry like? Because as we see with Anthony Bourdain, the depression is rampant. We see drug use is rampant in there. Alcoholism is rampant.
I didn't know.
Because it's such a stressful place to work at. Was that also like an industry where you found solace in like-minded people and weren't really frowned upon for using substances?
Yeah, definitely around you all the time. When I had gotten into like the fine dining, we're doing like 3 and 5, 7-course pairings with wine. So on my Mondays at lunchtime, we would taste, 20 different bottles of wine, and we'd be tore up before we'd even like get to work, really. So, granted, I had already would be drinking, like I would get 2 4 Locos on my way to work and pound them in like my 20-minute ride to work. So like I was under the influence of something all the time. And
we spend so much time tracking pace, distance, heart rate, and all these external metrics, but we don't track the thing that actually matters most: how we're moving. Alethea is a sensor that clips to your waistband and tracks the force your body experiences when you run. Not just you're running 8-minute miles, but how your body is actually absorbing impact. Whether you're braking too much, whether one leg is doing more work than the other. They call it a force portrait. And when I first saw mine, it was like, damn, this is what's actually happening when I run. This is where I'm inefficient. This is where I'm setting myself up for injury. And here's why this matters. Most running injuries don't just happen. They build over time because of the imbalances and inefficiencies we can't see. You're overstriding. You're landing too hard on one side. Your form is breaking down in ways you don't notice until something hurts. Alethea catches that before it becomes a problem. You get personalized feedback after every run. It tells you exactly what to work on, not generic advice, but your specific issues based on your unique biomechanics. I'm not saying this lightly. If you're serious about running long term, this is the tool you need, because staying healthy is how you keep showing up. Head to alethea.run and use promo code RUNSCARED10 today.
In the food industry, you get off late at night. There's nothing to do. So everyone, meet up at whatever bar it may be, and then you just keep drinking until they close, and then you're up in the morning doing it again and again and again. So there's always alcohol around because there's food around. Like, the only way to really make money in a restaurant is to sell alcohol with the food, So it's always around.
Yeah.
I've always been on something, throughout the years. Now I don't, but it's definitely around, and I couldn't even tell you, so many stories of, just like, I've drank like bottles of wine that cost like $20,000, and then I'm just like, nah, whatever. This ain't even nothing. Like this, it just tastes like old grapes, Like, I'm like, why does someone spend that much money on this old wine? But whatever,
Yeah.
Wait, so Don, how did you become a chef in between all of this?
Yeah, one of your many lives.
So I worked at like a steakhouse, the same restaurant my mom still works at, and like worked there from the time I was like 13 till I joined the military. And I was a Cav Scout in the Army, which really doesn't translate to anything in the civilian world. So when I got out, I just went back to working in restaurants because that's what I knew. I knew I could get a job there. And I actually never went to culinary school or anything like that. I just was very blessed to work with some really good chefs. And, with all the books out there and the internet, and food's something that really you can learn on your own through, trial and error. And, a lot of chefs are like that. I've hired more chefs that were quality, chefs that never went to culinary school. So I'm not like against culinary school or anything, but when it comes down to it, like hard work and in the industry, you know, you're learning every day and you're getting paid. So I try to tell people that if that's what you want to do, try to get into a really good restaurant and start at the bottom, you know, even if it starts with washing dishes, like you gotta work your way up. You know, I've been in restaurants where
sounds like a really good segue for running.
Yeah.
That's
actually the perfect segue into like running, right? You know, do you feel like that kind
Those
of mindset
lessons,
is what allowed you to find running? And because a lot of this running, especially ultra distances, is trial and error, and you're really working your way up from the bottom up. What was your first time running? What was that distance? What was that like? And
why did you choose running? Because I would have went and picked up a basketball or something. But
so when I quit drinking, I needed something to like wind my body down after work, and I had just moved to Virginia for a job, and you know, I got a 24-hour fitness membership, like, and I would get off work, and I remember vividly, and this isn't that long ago, you know, like 5-6 years ago, I would get on the treadmill and tell myself, you're not getting off until you run 2 miles, because in the military, that's like standard. You know, you do your 2-mile run. So
the PRT.
Yeah. So in the military, I was pretty fast and a good runner in the military. And as a scout, you're out there on your own or with a small team, wherever you may be. So you're used to moving, you know. It might not be as fast if you have like a pack and everything on, but I was comfortable with being on my feet. So when I quit drinking, it started off with me just going to the gym, getting on the treadmill for 2 miles. And I had moved to Charlottesville, Virginia. They have a really big trail running scene. They have a group called the CATS, the Charlottesville Area Trail Runners. And I knew nothing about Strava. I knew nothing about any of that. I was working with a guy, and he's like, hey, you should go out to these group runs and run clubs and all that. I had no clue what any of that was. So I get Strava. I find trails near me, start running those trails. Then from, you know, once I started getting to 2 miles to 4 miles to whatever distance, then I just like get knee deep in the trails and loved it, because I love being outside. I love the aspect of like walking at times, you know, like it's not, you know, so like I was so blessed, and everything happens for a reason, you know. Like when I moved to Charlottesville, my daughter had just been born. She was like within 6 months, you know, by the time I moved, and her mother ended up not moving with me. You know, when it came to like move day, we got in an argument. She's like, I'm not moving with you, whatever, you know. So it created, I was down there alone. So it really like, I don't know, it forced me to learn how to be alone and be alone in the woods and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's honestly, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's one of the questions I had for you, right? Ultras really force you to be alone with your thoughts for many hours. I've overcome a lot of demons, so to speak. Yeah. That, you know, I had to face being tired and on the trails for a long time. You know, were you ever in a race where you felt like the actual battle wasn't the race itself, but it was a voice inside your head that you were battling with?
Yeah, I feel like every race, that's always, you know, that's always what it comes down to, you know. Like there's been so many times, you know, I went from running like 50Ks, I did a 40 miler, and then I went straight into Swammie 200. So I skipped 100 mile,
What?
skipped
Wow, that's
100K. Like I went straight to the 200, and I fell in love with the 200 then. So it has
Yeah.
always been a mental thing for me. It's never, you know, yes, it's physical, but it is mental. And I run these races to fight those demons and to unlock those doors in my brain, and just like the thought process and everything behind these long races, and just figuring out how to get to the finish line.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how big of a chicken you are.
I told you,
Going
man.
from
I'm
40
getting
to-
all these other ultra runners
run
on.
100
He's
and-
all mad like that I'm running 100 miles. He's like, "You're crazy. You have these issues." And that's how we started this show. Was, dude, you think I'm crazy? Wait till we talk to Chef Don.
'Cause I'm
Knotts,
not a runner at
who
all.
wants to do 200 miles.
I play soccer. I do not run at all. I ran one half marathon, and that was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I was like, I'm good.
He's on a mission to get us to stop running. I'm on a mission to show him why we run. And I think he's realizing the more messed up we are, the further we have to go.
What was your first race, Don? Like, what was your first? Was it
I think
5K or?
I've run a lot of 5Ks over the years. I wouldn't really count those as like my first like race. Yeah, there's a race called Willis River 50K in Virginia. It's a fat ass. And that was my first trail race since like from the time I quit drinking. I went straight to a 50K, and you can
That's
drop
incredible.
Yeah, and you can drop down. So the way that race works, you run, it's like a 25, 35, and 50K. So everyone starts and finishes at the same line. You run out. If you're doing the 25K, you run whatever, 12.5, then turn around and come back. I'd signed up for the 50K, so I ran the whole way out, came back, and if you get to the finish line and you're not feeling up to doing the last part, you can just stop there and get a finish. So it's not really like, you know, it's a fat ass. So like you can do whatever you want with it.
Oh my gosh. Well, I want to kind of start changing directions, not completely, because you know, you talk a lot about your faith and the trail. I felt like I had a moment on my 100 miler where I felt more connected to God than I'd ever felt at a moment where I felt physically broken, mentally broken.
Even when you were on psychedelics?
Dude, honestly, like 100%. I saw some crazy stuff on psychedelics, right? But like, and you know, moments where you would think like it's God, but there's nothing more connecting than finding a feeling of God's presence naturally. Without drug-induced emotions, right? I found that to be a more powerful moment in my life, feeling a connection with God or a higher power as I saw fit, than being out there broken mentally and physically and still pushing through and feeling this unseen energy lift me up and give me strength to do something greater outside of myself. What was your first moment that you felt faith and running and the trails were truly connected for you?
A lot of times I'm out there alone. You know, most of the time, especially in training, you're out there alone because not many people are really doing it. And everyone works different schedules too. So firstly, just in training, I had gained that. And you kind of feel closer to God because, you feel like he's listening. You know, you're the only one out there like talking to him. You feel like, but when I got into Swammie, you know, it's a journey race. There's no aid stations. There's no nothing. You're on the outer banks and everything's closed. So, you know, you go sections of like 20, 25 miles where there's like a bathroom you can get water at, you know? And
what?
yeah, it's a one of a kind race, and I try to get everyone to run it because the reasoning for running it, like the foundation that you're supporting veterans, and it's a small field. They only take 30 runners every year. Yeah, so you start in Sandbridge Beach, Virginia, which is like the southernmost part of Virginia Beach. And you run on, you go out, it's like 2 miles on the road, and then you enter Back Bay Federal Wildlife Preserve on the beach. You run 21 miles or so on the beach until you get to Corolla, North Carolina. So you'll go past the North Carolina and
Like
Virginia.
in the sand?
On the sand, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's rough. This year was definitely the hardest. Like we had like 50-mile-an-hour winds, pouring rain. It turned to snow once the sun went down in day one. It was just like the roughest situation I ever put myself in. And I had no crew. I had nothing. So the first year I did it and completed it the first year.
About 200 miles?
Yeah, it's like 220. You usually get about 225 is what most people average. But you go south. Once you get into Corolla, North Carolina, it's North Carolina 12 that just runs the whole way down the Outer Banks. And you go the whole way down to Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. There's a lighthouse there. You take a picture of yourself with the lighthouse and you send it to the RD, turn around and get going back. So you start 25 miles on the beach and then you finish going 25 miles on the beach. Around mile 70 on your way down there, you hit, we all call it Desolation Alley, but you go on these two bridges, the Bassonite Bridge, and we call the other one the 3 Mile Bridge, but you're on bridges for like 9 miles. And in between those two bridges, it's just sand dunes on both sides. So there's nothing like, and even once you get, it's crazy. Like nothing's open
Jared's
either.
side-eyeing me right now. He's like, what the
This
heck?
is insane.
Yeah.
This is nuts.
And I was stationed in
and
Virginia.
nobody with you.
I lived in Virginia, by the way, and I know this exact section you're talking about, and I know how the weather can get at that point. So I lived in Virginia Beach. I was stationed in Dam Neck and then eventually Norfolk, but I lived in Virginia Beach. That section, I know that section very well going down to North Carolina. I know the winds that come off that shore from the Atlantic get so powerful. I've seen it lift people and take them back a couple feet
Oh my God.
during like hurricane times.
Yeah.
The sheer cold at night from that beach is like bone chilling, painful. What is your pack like? How heavy is your pack? How much are you carrying on your pack when you're doing this run as well? Because that's also another thing that's crazy.
Yeah. So when I did it with crew, it was totally different than without. Granted, when you do it with crew, that beginning 25 miles on the beach, for your crew to go from the start finish to Corolla, it's like a 4.5 hour drive because you have to go the whole way into Norfolk and then back up into Corolla. So like you always start with like 3 liters of water. Always take some food with you. But uncrewed, I was like 15 to 20 pound pack. Cause I had 3 changes of clothes, trying to run. Yeah. That's why they call it the Swammie Shuffle. Cause like you're shuffling like the whole time. And different, it's all on timing too, you know, like most of the businesses close really early because it's always the last week of February. So it's a ghost town. Like if you go to the Outer Banks in the summertime, it's just like any beach town. It's crazy. It's partying. Everything's open. But during Swammie Shuffle, nothing's open. Like, you know, you can look at the map on your phone and see, oh, this bar and grill is up here. I'm going to stop there, you know. They're not open. They're not going to be open. Or they close at like 2:00, you know. And then you have that other section.
Don, what do you accomplish?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
But like then
I was just going to say real quick, what do you accomplish at 100? I mean, what do you accomplish at a 200 that you don't accomplish at 100? Like, what do you get out of that extra 100 miles? Because I saw Nick do his 100, and I was like, it took everything out of him. So I can't imagine. Like, what's the difference?
It's the multiple days. You know, you get 5.5 days to finish this. So like, there's no hard cutoffs, and that was my thing with hundreds. Was like, you know, you got to be pretty fast. You got to keep moving at all times for the most part. With this, I know 60-year-old men that do this every year, and they make it a vacation. Like they have their hotels planned out. They'll do like 40 to 50 miles every day. They go get in the hot tub. They'll drink a beer or whatever they do. You know, some of these guys are just like old school, you know, like the Laz races, like Vol State, Hots, you know, like there's 400-mile races out there. You know, it's just finding the people that do them.
That's actually more up your alley then. You know, you talk
None of this is up my alley.
37 miles
doing
a day.
50 miles in a day is not up my alley.
Yeah, like you talk about like no rush, just move, man. Just get out there and move and just see what you can do and how long you can move for. Maybe we sign you up for the Swammie Shuffle.
We're not signing me up for the Swammie Shuffle.
Just put his name in for me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just put his name in there.
Absolutely not.
If you care about the veterans.
At what mile do you guys see God? Like when did the hallucinations start? When do, you know?
Yeah.
So
when does it start getting really religious?
Yeah, my coming to God moment in Swammie Shuffle was in the Desolation Alley. It's called the P Islands. And like I said, you're going over these bridges, and then once you get over the bridges, it's just sand dunes. I went through it at night the first time. So you can hear waves crashing. Like, you can hear them just like, you know, like the waves hitting the sand dunes, but you can't see water anywhere because the sand dunes are like 20 feet tall, 15 feet tall. They're high. Unless you walk to the top of the sand dune, which you're not going to do, you know, you're not going to see water for 25 miles, but you can hear it, you know? And I always like talk about, you know, when in the Bible, when Jesus is walking through the desert and the devil is trying to, you know, get in his ear. And that's what I experienced going through there at night. It was like no light pollution. You're seeing all the stars. You're praying. You're doing all that. And I ended up doing it in the daytime coming back. So I got a totally different experience, which it really sucks doing it during the day because it's just like telephone poles, you know, you're just counting telephone poles and there's nothing. It's like you're going through the desert and it's freezing cold because it's in February, you know? Yeah, it is a life-changing experience. There's not one person that has finished Swammie that hasn't been changed in their mental or running career or anything, because it's a one of a kind race.
Please don't tell him this.
Oh, he's like perfect for it, especially being a Navy veteran. There's a lot of Navy guys. The guy who has the record now, Thomas DiStefano, he just retired from the Navy. And he did it in like 57 hours. So he was dropping.
I was just going to say, I saw his time on there. Yeah.
Yeah, he was dropping
hours,
pacers.
Man.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, like he was fully dropping pacers. I've trained with Thomas. He's a great guy. He's got a lot of great stories too, and had a great career in the Navy. But it's a lot of veterans that run it too. You know, it's
yeah.
I was on Nick's team when he ran the 100, and I was more injured than he was by the time.
It took him out. It took him 2 weeks in the ICU after I finished my 100.
I got sick.
Yeah. I ended up having a bad.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I had a bad go at it this year. Just being uncrewed and the weather, like I got trench foot worse than I've ever even could imagine having it. And
I don't know what that is.
It's just you're wet forever. There's like no way.
Yeah.
There was no way to get dry. And since I had no crew, so pretty much once you do the beach, you get to about, it's like 27 miles. There's a Food Lion grocery store. Everyone usually stops there. So I pull into this Food Lion. I got like a thing of like chicken salad and like just like stupid food that I could get down. And I had a friend, Coasty, who's from Charlottesville. His girlfriend had pulled in there. So I got in her car and it's still pouring down rain. And it's like, well, I can change my socks, but it's really not going to do anything for me. So I knew I needed to make it to about mile 45 to 47. There's a Hilton hotel there, and me and a couple other runners were planning on sharing a room. So that's a big thing. Like a lot of the runners, we become friends, we train up to it, we share rooms to where it's like, because it can get expensive too, you know, like it's already expensive to get there to train. And then if you're renting like 4 or 5 hotel rooms, like it's not cheap. So we all try to like help each other out.
Yeah.
It's a huge community. Like a lot of the guys have run it multiple years. There's a guy, Mike Edwards, who this was his 5th year finishing it. And, you know, I don't want to say he's older than he is, but I want to say he's in his 60s. And he taught me a lot. It's just so much of a learning experience, and you're just out there by yourself for a lot of it. And yeah, once I made it to the lighthouse the year I finished, I knew I was going to finish because I had already done 110 miles.
Yeah.
I knew this is the farthest I've ever run. I'm going to keep going. And I had crew too. So I was able to like stop more. I had people like to bring me food and stuff like that. Didn't have any pacers, but I had a crew. And my son was actually with me too. Yeah. So he did like 3 or 4 miles through the one town, like walked with me. And that was like, you know, I'll remember that forever. Because I wasn't moving fast. I was in the pits. I was, you know, just in the pain, in the moment, and putting one foot in front of the other. And that's the biggest thing with that race is just.
So Don, when you're at, you know, those deep miles and everything's hurting, what do you tell yourself to keep yourself going? How do you motivate yourself to just keep moving forward?
So that race, it's the whole reasoning behind that is Dustin Swammie Long, he had taken his life in 2020, and they drill it in your head. You know, you have a pre-race dinner. His father's there. His kids, the fallen Marine, his kids there, and they tell you, like, you know, whatever pain you're going through is nothing compared to like the ones that aren't here to like be able to do it. So you just like think on that, and it's like, personally, like I struggled with those issues, with suicidal thoughts and tendencies, and you know, that's why I did it. You know, I didn't want to feel that way anymore, and I wanted to like show myself that like you can't give up. And yeah, you just think of that. You just think of the ones that ain't here anymore, you know, and they're not able to do it. So you just got to remember that. And not even just veterans, like, you know, everyone knows someone that's disabled or someone that got cancer or someone that died too early. And it's like, you just got to like think on that, because you woke up today. If you can walk, keep going, you know, like it's just an amazing thing, you know, like there's really, that's the biggest thing.
No, I love that. Yeah, that's powerful. It's deep. It's so true. And, you know, the gratefulness I have for the life and suffering that I get to choose today, is powerful for me to keep. That's a good
point. The suffering I get to choose.
Yeah. You get to choose it all today, right? There's suffering that in the past that we didn't get to choose. And that's what strives me to push harder and further. And that's a big reason why I
still don't think you guys need to push further.
We're not going to listen to this guy. He's on a mission to try and get us to stop doing ultra distances. But you know what? We're going to convince him.
A fast marathon is hard enough.
If you really want to see the Juice run an ultra marathon, we make this brand blow up, and I will put him on salary and give him a job, and we'll say, hey, Juice, you're running 100 miles.
I might skip right to the 200 like he did.
I mean, yeah, you might as
go
well.
with him. At least I get to stop every night.
Yeah, you know, I think that's just awesome, man. Like, you know, you've lived multiple lives, like you said, and we see it here, right? Going through this whole journey from a child to military to prison to chef to running these multiple distances, challenging yourself. Well, that is.
I feel like you're looking for new people that run further and further every single time.
Have you noticed a trend?
I'm starting to notice that.
Because
we started off, I feel like they were running 50s, and I was like, this is nuts. And then next thing I know, you were finding people who were running 100s. Now they're running 200s.
When I sign up for a 140-mile race, it seems like nothing. Remember when you just said this to me?
Yeah.
When I said something about 100, boring. Even 100, you're like, oh, that's whatever. And I was like, there we go.
Definitely a 50 is whatever now.
Yeah, 50 mile is boring.
We don't even go out with you to 50s anymore.
You're terrible. You're a terrible person. You're a terrible friend, terrible human being.
It's easy now.
It's easy now.
Like, would you show up to my half marathon?
I'd be right there screaming. I'd have the juice painted on my chest.
Only for one, because you know I'd be fainting. But what a great interview.
Great interview. Don is amazing. We're going to link all of these organizations, where to find them in the show notes. Just grateful for this. I love seeing people challenge themselves, but also being an example for those out there, especially, all of these things hit home for me. Veterans struggling with mental battles, and people struggling with sobriety. That just checked all my boxes. You know why I love all that stuff. Right. But please check the show notes so you can find all of these organizations that Don talked about. This is another episode of the Ostrich Running Podcast.
Are you really going to run a 200?
We appreciate the messages week after week, the support that you have of this show. It has not gone unnoticed. We are so grateful for you. Please review the show.
I can't wait to what you see when you hallucinate. when you run a 200.
And let's go ahead and have this mission to take down the juice. He thinks he's taking us out one by one.
I gotta step this up. This is getting out of control.
Cue that outro music.
Who says you need to fly to reach the top? Keep beating your block till your feet are hot. Get your head out the sand, join the flock. It's okay to run scared, we enjoy the lie. I'm an odd kid, like an ostrich. I got a pod, kids, here's a topic. Blaze your own trail, don't be cautious. 2 birds, 1 stone's how I rock it. Can't make an omelet without breaking a shell. But they say grew up, now I'm raising hell. Haters gonna hate, yeah, they praying it fails. So put in the work, whether pavement or trail. The grades fell down, but they got to the feet. Run your own race, put this pod on repeat. Shake your tail feather, keep nodding your beaks. Ostrich gang, or you're not my peeps. Who says you need to fly to reach the top?